Will home prices in California finally crash in 2025? I'm going to answer that question for you in this video and give you data on the top 10 cities in California where I think home prices are going to go down. And interestingly, home values in California are actually up 3.6% over the last year, with the typical value of a house in California skyrocketing all the way up to $771,000. However, home values are likely to drop in our number 10 city on this list, Lake Tahoe. You can see values surrounding Lake Tahoe are already down by over 10% over the last 2 years. However, the prices are still much higher than they were before the pandemic. The reason that values in Lake Tahoe are going down is because there's been a surge in supply and inventory from Airbnb owners selling their properties, many of whom who bought at the peak of the bubble in 2021. With home values now also starting to drop in our number 9 city in California with declining prices heading into 2025, Los Angeles. You can see that home values across Los Angeles are down over the last year by as much as 9% in Beverly Hills, 7% in Santa Monica, and 6% near downtown LA. Many people have fled Los Angeles over the last 3 or 4 years since the pandemic, and they're moving to other parts of California, like Orange County, where home values are up by 7 to 10% over the last year. And outbound migration is something that has really hit the Bay Area of California hard, particularly San Mateo County, our number 8 area where prices could drop in 2025. San Mateo County is located between San Francisco and San Jose, and the typical value of a house is $1.5 million. Like, you gotta pay that just for a 3-bed, 3-bath that's 1,200 square feet, built 100 years ago. And the good news is that values are actually down by about 7.6% from peak over the last 2 years in San Mateo County. However, there's big differences in the projection of where prices are heading. If you go closer to Silicon Valley and Menlo Park, Reventure App is predicting that prices are going to go up in 2025, whereas if you go closer to San Bruno and South San Francisco, Reventure App is predicting that prices are going to go down. And this is an important thing to remember about California's housing market, is that it's very local and it's very fragmented. You could be in one city or county and just 5 miles away, home prices are doing something completely different than they're doing in your area. And the way that I help you guys as home buyers and investors figure out if prices are going to go up or down in your area is through the Reventure App Home Price Forecast Score. This is a score from 0 to 100 that attempts to predict where prices are heading in the next year. If the score is below 50, prices are forecast to go down. If they're above 50, prices are forecast to go up. And encouragingly, this score has proved to be very accurate at predicting home prices over the last several years. You can see that the Reventure App score in 2023 predicted home price growth in 2024 with 74% accuracy among metro areas with a minimum population of 100,000. So this is some of the best data that you're going to find in terms of predicting home prices in California over the next year. And this data is suggesting that our number 7 city could see declining prices. This is an area in the northern Central Valley where the housing market boomed during the pandemic but is now starting to slow. It's San Joaquin County, which includes the city of Stockton. You can see the Reventure Home Price Forecast score in Stockton has dropped from a 69 during the pandemic, a huge seller's market, down to a 48, trending closer to a buyer's market today. The reason that this is occurring is due to a big spike in inventory. There's now 1,200 homes on the market for sale in San Joaquin County. That's the highest level since 2019. And so one of the big indicators if prices are going to drop in your area in California is those inventory levels. Are we seeing the supply in the listings increase enough to bring prices down? Because the overall issue in California and why prices haven't crashed yet in California is because the supply is still fairly low on a statewide basis. There's currently 60,000 homes for sale all across California today, whereas prior to the pandemic there was 70,000 homes for sale. And so we still haven't gotten back to those pre-pandemic inventory levels yet, which is why prices haven't dropped by more. However, we're gaining steam, particularly in our number 6 area where prices could drop in 2025, San Bernardino in the Inland Empire. Now, San Bernardino County is really big, everyone. It covers everything from Ontario and Rancho Cucamonga all the way up to the Nevada border. And you can see over the last year that prices in San Bernardino are actually up by 4.3%. However, I don't think they're going to go up again this year. And that's because the supply on the market has increased from 3,900 homes a year ago to 5,300 homes today, the highest level of inventory since 2019, leading to a Reventure App score of 48 out of 100, which technically means price is stable. However, it's slightly below 50, indicating we could start to see a correction in San Bernardino County this year. And one thing that really concerns me about California's housing market right now is the economy in California, because the data that I'm looking at in the California economy is starting to look worse and worse. In fact, California might have the worst performing economy in America right now. As you can see, the unemployment rate in California is 5.4% entering 2025. That's the third worst of any area in America. The only places that are worse are Washington, D.C. and Nevada at 5.7%. You can see that this unemployment rate in California has increased from a low of 3.8% in August 2022 to 5.4% today. That's the highest level since 2017 if you exclude the pandemic. And the reason California's economy is now starting to struggle is due to its reliance on two industries, tech and media. Both of those industries are in a structural recession right now, which is starting to drag down the performance of California's economy as a whole. For instance, you can see the job postings index for software developers in the US has cratered to an index of 67. Prior to the pandemic, we were at 100. So there's 33% fewer job postings for software developers in America today than there were before the pandemic, and there's 70% fewer job postings than there were 2 years ago for software developers. People are leaving California in general. California has lost people due to outbound migration for 7 years in a row, and as a result, its population has declined by 1.4% over the last 5 years. You can see this is one of the worst performances of any state in terms of population growth the last 5 years, right next to Illinois, and actually worse than New York, which no doubt is having a drag on California's economy, particularly in our number 5 area where prices could drop in 2025. This city is in Northern California. It's Santa Rosa. Now, Santa Rosa is in Sonoma County, which you can see is to the north here of San Francisco. Over the last year, prices in Sonoma County are flat. They haven't really grown, they haven't really dropped, but on a monthly basis, they're now dropping. And the reason is a spike in inventory. We went from 500 homes on the market in Sonoma County 3 years ago to 882 on the market today. That's above the long-term average and is indicating a softening market, which is why the Reventure App score for Sonoma County is a 46 out of 100. Again, that's technically prices stable, but it's below 50, indicating we could see a modest correction next year. And that's one thing I want to be clear about, everyone. I'm forecasting only a slight correction in most of the markets on this list. The data on Reventure App is pretty clear that these cities are slowing. However, they haven't slowed enough to produce a crash. In stark contrast, in many cities in Florida and Texas, Reventure App is saying that a big downturn is coming in 2025. So we're talking probably anywhere from a 2 to 5% drop in some of these cities if this data holds. Maybe the number 1 city on this list could be more of a crash city. We're going to get to that later. But first, I want to talk about our number 4 area where prices could drop. Oakland. Oakland is located in Alameda County, which also includes the cities of Hayward and Fremont. And you can see prices are actually up 3.6% in Alameda over the last year to a typical value of $1.1 million. And while these prices are still expensive, we're actually starting to see some owners in Oakland lose money, like on this 2,500 square foot house. It's actually a pretty nice home, a 5-bedroom, 4-bath, that the owner bought for $1.4 million in May 2020 and now has listed for $1.398 million in 2024. And we're seeing those losses really start to take place in Northern California. Northern California's housing market is the one that's really gotten hit since the pandemic started. There was an exodus from San Francisco and Oakland, and then there was the tech downturn, which really started to bring values down in many of these areas. However, the problem is they haven't gone down enough to bring the buyers back in. And this is a problem all across California, everyone. Low home buyer demand. Data from Redfin is showing that across the state of California that there's 5,200 home sales per week at the end of November 2024. This home sale figure is down a colossal 40% from the peak in 2021 and about 30% from pre-pandemic home sale levels. And so buyer demand in California is still very, very low. Important that you guys understand that. It might not seem that way since prices are still expensive, but there's actually very few buyers in the California market today. Rather, the reason that values haven't crashed is because there haven't been enough listings and new sellers on the California housing market. Home prices, they're a function of supply and demand. The demand in California is way down, but the supply is also still pretty low. And one of the reasons is a lack of mortgage delinquencies and foreclosures. You can see that the lowest mortgage delinquency rates in America are in California. San Jose, San Francisco, San Diego, LA, Sacramento have some of the lowest mortgage delinquency rates, whereas places in Louisiana, Tennessee, and Texas have the highest mortgage delinquency rates. And so we're going to need to see more forced selling in California's housing market to really bring about a crash in prices. Now, interestingly, our number 3 city where home prices could drop in 2025 is an area where prices collapsed in the last downturn. In the last crash, home prices went down 57% in this area of California, Contra Costa County. Now, Contra Costa County, everyone, it includes cities like Walnut Creek, Concord, Pittsburgh, and Antioch, and you can see values dropped 58% in the last downturn. The typical price of a house here in Contra Costa went from $667 to $279. An absolutely monumental collapse. Since then, prices have surged back up to a typical value of $800 grand. Now, how much could prices drop next year in Contra Costa County? Well, the Reventure App score is a 45 out of 100, which is suggesting values could go down a couple percentage points, maybe 3 to 4%, with the main contributing factor here being inventory. There's now 1,600 homes on the market in Contra Costa. That's the highest level since 2019, and it's more than double the pandemic low. And one thing I want you all to understand is that there's a lag between the inventory levels on the market and how prices move in the future. And so inventory increased in Contra Costa from 1,200 homes last year to 1,600 homes this year. That's a 33% increase. That's an increase in inventory that's going to show up in prices over the next 12 months. And it's why our home price forecast score for Contra Costa is a 45 out of 100. Moving on to our number 2 area where prices could drop in California next year, Vallejo and Fairfield. Vallejo and Fairfield are in Solano County to the north of Contra Costa. You can see values here are roughly flat year over year and are down on a month over month basis. And the Reventure App score is a 44 out of 100, indicating more of a buyer's market due to a big increase in the days on the market. Homes are sitting on the market for 50 days now in Solano County, while inventory is up to 700 homes, one of the highest levels in the last 7 years. Now, prior to getting to our number 1 city where I predict that prices are going to drop in California next year, I want to talk about some areas in California where prices won't drop. We're forecasting actually prices to increase on Reventure App over the next year in California. One of these areas would be Orange County. In Orange County, home prices are actually up 8.9% year over year to a typical value of 1.1 million. You can see there was a modest correction in Orange County in late 22, early 2023, and then since then values have just continued to rocket higher. And actually, Reventure App predicted that Orange County would do well in 2024. We had that home price forecast go from a 49 to a 58 in 2023, and that increase in home price forecast was telling you that prices would go up in Orange County. Now we're at a 56 out of 100, which is still indicating upward price pressure. In addition, Reventure App has a score of a 51 out of 100 for San Diego. This score has worsened since last year. Last year we had a 57 for San Diego, which helped predict that prices would go up. Now we're down to a 51, which is more of a stable market in San Diego. So we're not saying there's going to be a surge in prices. We're not saying there's going to be a crash in San Diego. It's going to be something. So maybe prices are flat in San Diego year over year. And what you guys should do at the end of this video after I reveal number 1 is go to www.reventure.app so you can access all of the data I'm showing you in this video for yourself. These home price forecasts go down to the zip code level so you can see the local trends in your market. Reventure App has 2 different memberships. The first is free. For the free membership, you get access to home value and inventory data in all the different cities and zip codes across California. On the premium membership, you get access to that home price forecast score as well as overvaluation rates for all the different areas in California. But now, moving on to our number 1 city where I think prices in California are going to drop in 2025. This is an area where values have actually already gone down by 15% over the last 2 years. This area has gotten hit especially hard by the tech downturn and a lot of people moving out. San Francisco, you can see values in San Francisco are down 14.7% over the last 2 years. The Reventure App score is currently a 44 out of 100. You can see the score in San Francisco has actually improved over the last 2 years, so we're not forecasting as big a decline in prices this year in San Francisco, maybe another 3 to 4%, 5% to go. But eventually I think this market might be a good place to buy because you can see the typical value hasn't really increased since 2015. We could be in for a turnaround in San Francisco's housing market, especially now that they have a new mayor. Head to www.reventure.app to access all this home price forecast data for yourself under a premium plan. The cost is $39 a month. Start by typing in your zip code and get into the data and hit home price forecast score.